I'm going to start with Chris. Chris, how are you, sir? Chris is our digital twin expert for the conversation today. Chris, would you like to say hi to the audience?
I'm doing great, James. Hi, thank you everyone for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Very, very good. Very, very good. I am turning that up a little bit if you're having trouble hearing on the Zoom session. Chris, how are you, sir? Chris is our digital twin expert for the conversation today. Okay, that was weird. That was a really weird feedback loop. Okay. Not sure what that's about. We'll have to figure that out. But thank you, Chris. Matt Fisher, our next co-host today. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today. I'm looking forward to chatting about AI with this group.
Very, very good. Oops. Matt Fisher is our expert on AI research. That's how I would categorize Matt Fisher. He's going to keep me honest when I say anything related to AI today. And Caleb. Caleb is, I've been very impressed with Caleb's content on LinkedIn. He was so nice to join us today. Caleb is an innovator in bringing technology to the architectural process. Caleb, would you like to introduce yourself just for a sec?
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. Looking forward to this.
Excellent. Thank you all. I'm gonna go solo just for a second. I'll be right back. So the introduction of today's show is it's really about bringing clarity to the market, a little bit of clarity in what Cognitive's role is in the world, and how we assist in corporate real estate, facility management, and architectural process, but really more about how we can help the industry adopt AI and move forward. So with that in mind, I am going to share a little bit of knowledge that we've pulled together in terms of some tool sets that we have. So give me 1 second as I make a concerted effort to share my screen. Yes, I do have this screen shared. Very, very good. First, before I do that, let me say that for everyone to follow this conversation in real time, we've made it hopefully somewhat easy to do. If you go to aiinnovators.org, and hopefully you're a member, if not, quickly sign up. You can go to groups, and then you can head on down to group discussions. And here we have a link to a blog post, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. This blog post is a guide to help facility managers understand how AI can be implemented, and very practical guidance in terms of facility managers on how to implement AI at their company. Now, if you're a reader, there's this blog page is a brief overview of the guide. If you're more of a visual learner, we've provided this video that you can watch at any time. And if we scroll on down here, we'll see some highlights of what the guide includes. I think where we want to jump into next is a little bit about our approach to helping the facility managers. And it's true for anyone. It can be an architect, it can be corporate real estate, it can be a small, medium business looking to better understand AI automation to assist in their business. Maybe it's client engagement or some other bit. So to that end, let's dive in here under requirements analysis and data preparation. So first step, how can I use AI to help me do my stuff better or to help my company do things better? You have to really have a decent understanding of the processes that you're attempting to automate. And that's step one. And it's a lot of times ignored or maybe not necessarily understood. You want to be able to think in terms of processes. What's the starting point? What's the trigger? What has to happen? And then what's the output? Once you've started there, you get a really good strategic intent for what you can use from an AI automation perspective. But it also makes pretty clear the data preparation or the data that you need to ingest in order to make a good decision in terms of automation. Let me pause for a minute and see if that made any kind of sense at all. Matt, what do you think? Is there clarity there? Is that on track? What's your viewpoint say?
Yeah, I think I think that's huge because it's like you need the goal, you need the direction, you need to know where you're headed. And a lot of times in our consulting practice, when we see where people are headed, we're able to add like layers of AI or different tools onto it to get them to achieve their goals. So I think it's pretty clear.
Very good. Yeah. So let me skip on down through here then. Tool selection sounds, just like it is. You can buy it, you can build it. And we're not going to belabor these points too much because I'm going to show you a really cool thing at the end of this, page. Pilot testing, very important. More important so, and how do you test it? How do you know if it's working or not? Right. I think that's the key aspect of things. How do you know if it's working for you, and how do you measure success? And then once I know what success looks like, what does full-scale implementation look like for us? How do I take those next steps? And then, of course, once it is being deployed, we always like to make sure things are in a state of continuous improvement and optimization. That is critical for AI. AI is not like your traditional software. I don't like calling AI software, but I guess it is, right? It's continually changing. The more it learns, particularly our cognitive autonomous agents, or CA3s, it will develop a style, right? So you want to make sure that the style of deliverable is still on mission for what you need. So absolutely not one and done. It's staying on top of the data that's being ingested by the model, how the model sees that, how the model is reasoning, and what their responses are. Now, I mentioned one of our CA3s, our cognitive autonomous agents, and we want to get very hands-on with our practical guidance for facility managers, right? So the one thing that we've made available is we've trained up an assistant to help you, the audience, better understand what the guide is and how to use it. Now, there's a few prompts that we put in here to make it really easy for you to get along with this, right? One of them was, hey, just give me an overview. The other is list the appendices. And we always like to say, as an agent, it's best to get the agent to introduce themselves so that you have an understanding of who you're talking to. You can also get the guide directly from here. So you can by clicking on this. But let me go back to this one, because this is probably the most important one for us. The appendices in the guide, I think there's about 6 or 7 appendices. We'll find out here in just a second. So here's what we're doing. We are using an AI agent to help us understand AI and how to implement it at our business. I think that's really meta, right? In terms of what we can be doing with our facility. And again, you can download the guide if that's more your speed. You can read it, and then you can come back and ask this agent how to assist you in making a bespoke version of these guides. And again, I don't want to get like extra deep into doing this, but I want to show you as an example of how it's done. Again, if you're just joining us, important to note, you can go to AI Innovators in the group session, in the group discussion area, and you can ask questions for everyone about how they're using it, how they're doing it, or get guidance on how you might be able to use this as well. So as an example, I have the appendix here, right? And let's say that I wanted to do something with Appendix F, which is the roadmap template. Really, all I have to do is maybe ask the agent have them ask me 3 questions to better understand how to make this bespoke. I believe I typed that right. That's amazing. Normally, I can't type at all. To better understand to make this bespoke. Now, assuming I did that right, because I got a whole lot going on here in front of me, it'll ask me 3 questions. And then when I answer those 3 questions, I can then continue the conversation to make that appendices very specific to my firm. Now, I hope there's this huge aha, visceral moment in the audience, right? Where they go, holy cow. I don't have to read a book. I don't have to read a website. I don't have to watch a WebEx or a Zoom or this session that we're having on LinkedIn to get a really deep understanding and then talk to a bunch of people and then maybe figure out how this is deployed. I can sit down and use a tool that will question me. I have very specific answers that I'm able to give it that are contextually relevant to my business. And what I have then are these tool sets and understandings and deliverables that I can take to my team to help them move forward. Let me pause for a minute. Let me go to Chris, and then I'm going to come to Caleb. So Caleb, I'm going to ask you how this might be used from an architectural perspective, although slightly different realm. But Chris, in terms of automation and adoption, and we're going to talk about digital twins in just a second, but does this feel about right in terms of understanding AI and how to implement it at an AI facility management level?
Oh, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head when you first indicated that, AI needs data to be able to function properly. And it's all about how we take that data and how we present that data so that AI can access that data and function properly and give you the results you need. And you need to ask yourself, how do I assemble that data? How do I operate my facility? How do I put that together in order to function properly and get the results I need?
I love that. Caleb, over to you. One thing that you haven't seen yet is something called workplace.efficient.tech, which is a series of tools that we have very specific for the architectural industry. So I think it's even more of a relevant question now without that context. What are you seeing from an architectural design perspective in terms of AI adoption? And I'm going to assume not much because you're still exploring. But in the context of being able to pass that down through the design phase to handover phase into building operation phase, what's the thinking there, if any, right now from an architectural perspective?
So I think from a design perspective, I can speak, and then also from a more general perspective, I love that you just demoed telling a document or telling any generative AI to ask you questions. I think that's honestly the key to most of the generative AI tools out there. Is a lot of people look at them and they say, oh, this is going to be able to design everything for me. This is going to know everything. Generative AI doesn't know things. And honestly, from the design side, our job is to get information from clients. What generative AI can do is inform you of A, the things you're not thinking about that maybe could inform a design, and B, create options for you to refine rather than you having to design everything from scratch and pass it down. Like, I think that's really, and I love that demo because it's saying, rather than try to just get information from an AI, let it tell you what it needs from you, and then it can create things for you. There's so much capability in that aspect.
I knew you were a brilliant man because you agree with me. So we like to spice this up with humor. Clearly, that was a joke. Okay. Now let's assume that you're off and running as a facility manager, and you have an understanding of how to gather process input, and you're starting the journey of pulling your team together, including IT and HR, on how to use AI. The final destination isn't necessarily a digital twin, but it's certainly a waypoint in finding your way to optimizing AI. Now, I want to pause for a second and show a video. Chris, I'm going to speak about what I'm seeing, and hopefully I'll get it right. If I get it wrong, please don't hesitate to correct me when we come back. I'm going to share that video right now. So this is a video of a three-dimensional model. The intent is that it's a fairly lightweight way to get to a visual representation of data on what you have currently in your facilities that you might want to be able to generate information from, insights on, or apply automation to. Wow, that was a lot of words. So forget, for the minute what you think a digital twin is. What we're showing here is a 3D representation of facility equipment, where it's located in the building, and the metadata associated with it. That, I think, is probably the second most important thing, maybe even the first most important thing, in being able to use AI to better assist facility managers. What do we think, Chris? Did I get it right?
Yeah, no, I agree. The digital twin, what we do is the digital twin is essentially that central repository for all of the data that you need to function with AI. Bringing that data into a digital twin and providing that visual repository that assist all of the functions for your particular facility and all the departments for your facility, whether it's asset management, facility management, operations, whatever it is that you may have, even security. Bringing that all in, putting it together in that electronic file cabinet, and having that data available so that now you can process it that much further and bring in your AI and run the different scenarios that you may have with the data that's present and being able to access it quickly.
Yes, sir. Now, Chris and I are working on something super secret, so everybody here is under NDA, so don't tell anybody. but we're working on a video that will be the proof of concept for everyone who's listening, right? It will show at least some use cases on what can be done very easily with the metadata or the data associated with even the example that you just saw. Now, that'll be relevant, and I'm going to use words, and words seem like sci-fi at the moment, but let me give you an example. In that video, you saw a piece of equipment. You clicked on the equipment. It brought up the user manual, and you had to read that user manual in order to learn about that piece of equipment. Now, Caleb, a genius, because he agrees with me, was very smart in that, how do I use AI to ask me questions so that it understands what I need? We can automate a little bit, right? So knowing that piece of equipment, user manual, maintenance guides, I have all that information associated that I've now validated as part of my process. I can bring that in to my AI chat agent, and I can have it maybe send me an email saying, hey, that piece of equipment that we looked at, that piece of equipment it's time for maintenance. Has that been done in the IWMS system? Now we can automate that as well, but to keep it simple, right? Has it been done? No. Oh, it hasn't been done yet. Here's the procedure. And it has it, right? It'll guide you in that procedure. Now, Matt, you brought up something the other day, which I thought was brilliant, and it's computer vision. So how would computer vision fit into that? Let's assume that I've got that email. I'm taking it with me. I know the procedure. I'm standing in front of the equipment. What do we think?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me present my screen for a second here and show you a quick example. If that works.
I don't know. I don't know if it'll work.
All right, we'll see if it works. If not, can you guys see this?
No, sir, we cannot, unfortunately.
Nothing.
Darn it.
All right.
Oh, wait. Hang on. I'm going to do it. You ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Here you go. There you go.
All right, guys. So this is, actually, let me show you a different diagram. So I am in the process of converting a office space into residential units. I don't know if I should be speaking about this with this audience, but here we are anyway. So
okay, everyone's going to keep your secret.
Yeah, so here's the fire escape in the back of the building. And so I uploaded this to Bard or Gemini, a lot of talk about that recently this week. So I decided to use that as the example. So I asked it to, so I uploaded the image and I was like, hey, what's this diagram about? And they're like, fire safety plan. And it scored pretty well on how accurate and other things are. But then I asked it, I was like, can you tell me the measurements of the fire escape? And I know the measurements are bad on the drawing, but it actually, by context, because it was placed into a CAD drawing, it was able to actually accurately show me like what the measurements of that fire escape is based on just like the geospatial connection to the rest of the plan. And it turned out to be pretty accurate on that. And the cool part about this is when you look at generative AI, like let's say it's 90% accurate right now, give it 6 months, give it a year, it'll probably be even more accurate because it's always learning. And this is the basis of computer vision. It can be done through cameras or through something like this. And there's a couple things out there like GPT-4V is like a computer vision LLM, or like Blip2 is like open source computer vision if you want to embed an LLM into your own firewall. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that's a sneak preview. We've tried it with the mechanical diagram for like an HVAC system, and it was able to tell us accurately like what it represented and where to go. So great option for especially tech, different techs and people in the facilities management realm, where maybe they're on the job and they're asking an AI assist for like, hey, what's the deal? What do you think? And it'll probably help you out in a huge way, especially if you're basing it off like digital twin and connecting to the IWMS system.
Let me go to Chris for a second.
James,
hello?
I was just gonna say I'd love to jump on top of that. If Chris wants to go first, that's totally fine.
No, go for it, Caleb.
I was gonna say so we've tested some similar things, and computer vision is a great topic, especially even in design and translating design to facilities management, because that's something, even in terms of digital twins, sometimes there's a disconnect between the design team building out a full model and then that model not really being used by facilities or being in the wrong format. So it's never actually picked up. And sort of the same thing is like, maybe in design, you're developing single line diagrams that are showing how a full system is operating. But for facilities management, you actually need a scheduler. You need an Excel doc that you're referencing. It's honestly incredible obviously you need to check the accuracy, but it's incredible what you're able to do with like a GPT-4V of just feeding it, hey, here's a diagram of how the system works. Just give me an Excel doc of every piece of equipment I've got and then names and numbers of everything. Like there's so much efficiency in translating design to facilities management if you have access to the original design.
So imagine taking that same AI that you just ran and what Caleb is suggesting, bring that on a digital twin, which gives you the accurate dimensions, the current state of that particular facility. You're running it off a blueprint that's probably 30, 40 years old if you're doing a conversion from an office building to a residential building. Let's run it off of something that's current, that's accurate, that's just been generated and has all that equipment in it with all the manuals and equipment numbers and so forth that Caleb's referring to, and run it from the complete status of what your current facility looks like.
I think it's a huge missed opportunity if we don't do this for newly renovated facilities moving forward, right? So we have to have the conversation with Caleb about what does it look like from a transition perspective, from design to operations, and then how do we help automate that? There's a whole other ball of wax about existing facilities, and that's the majority of the world right now, right? And shame on all of us, right? Everyone on this call that's listening to my voice right now. We didn't do a really good job of maintaining the as-built or the existing state of the maintenance of the equipment or where that equipment is or all the changes over time. And now we're feeling the pain from that. So we have to not necessarily start with what we have. We have to go back and correct some bad behavior that we've exhibited for decades, right? And there's a little bit of pain in that, but there's a huge reward in that. And I think that's going to be maybe the biggest barrier to success for facility managers. It's not necessarily what can AI do or how it can be implemented. I think that's fairly straightforward. It's how do I use it on existing facilities where I don't necessarily know if the human process has been followed, what the maintenance cycle data logs are, if the data is correct. And I think that in next year is something that we need to address in terms of clarity for the industry. Matt and Caleb, well, really everybody, to build on what you said, one of the things I find absolutely fascinating about computer vision, I'm a technician, maybe I've gotten the update and I'm going down to change a filter on a piece of equipment. I might get there and get a little frazzled, not exactly know where that thing is. I can take a picture of the equipment and then I can ask my agent, hey, can you point me on where this thing is? And it'll guide me. Well, oh yeah, it's on the bottom right-hand corner. And I can just keep asking questions as I dive in. It's like, is it this thing? Take a picture of it. They go, absolutely, it's that thing. If there's something and I don't know what it is, you can take a picture of it in computer vision and go, should this thing be here? What the heck is this? And then it'll let you know what it is and how relevant it is to the mission that you have at that time, which is changing the filter on a piece of equipment.
Yeah, one example on that, James, like my co-founder, he had a snowboarding glove and there was like the zipper across it and the zipper piece fell off. He just took a picture of it. And not only was it able to describe what that piece was, but where to order it. So in facilities management, it's kind of the same story. Like how many people have used a model that's like 4 versions past and the part numbers have changed like 5 different times? Like AI can correct that. Like I fixed an ice maker and in 30 seconds, it told me the 4 different models and then which one to order.
I love that. I love that. So quick sort of recap where we are in the conversation so far, right? We've released a very practical guide to adopting AI from a facility management perspective. And we've made that available in the discussion group on AI innovators. So hopefully everyone will have a chance to go out and take a peek at that. We've also made it readily accessible by one of our AIs, corporate cognitive autonomous AI agent, to help you as the reader understand its applications to you. So you can ask the agent questions, you can ask it to guide you in crafting another version of that utility guide, or crafting a bespoke version of some of the tool sets that we have in the back in terms of processes, in terms of milestones, in terms of tools that you can use to help your team better understand the adoption of AI. And we've given some insights into what we think are some of the constraints from a facility management perspective. And I've been very impressed with Chris and his vision and view for how to make digital twins easily and readily accessible to the market in general. I do think it can be overly taxing at times when you talk to some in the industry about what a digital twin is, and it's this really unimaginable large thing that you can't get your arms around. I think the approach that we've laid out here makes it somewhat easy to get started. In fact, it makes it very easy to get started. Data that's visually represented in a way that you can find the equipment and the associated material, support material for that equipment. We know it's not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult, in fact, for the industry to adopt this for existing facilities. We discussed why that is. And we're looking to folks like Caleb, God love you, Caleb, to fix this from an architectural perspective, right? If we start right now and we started pushing 100% of the projects in the pipeline in a manner that is easier than what it currently is, right? So we need to make it easy for facility management to adopt the things they need in order to help us in an automation perspective. I feel like my world would be a whole different world. The sun would come out, the birds would be chirping, being able to get to the requirements of local law 97 in New York would just be this aha moment, right? It would be readily apparent on what the industry needs to do. What I'm certain of, though, is we can't sit back and hope that someone will figure it out for us. And then eventually someone will show up on my doorstep and I'll pay a few bucks and flip a switch and ta-da, it's fixed, right? I'm now a facility manager that's expert in AI. Look at me go. That's not what's going to happen. We have to go through the process of knowing what it is, how to deploy it, how to use it, and how to overcome the issues that we've caused in the constraints that we have. And there's so much around that. And that's actually part of what this show is going to explore in the next 12 shows in 2024. Clarity of what's happening in market. We're not talking sci-fi. We're talking this can be done today, right? Everything that we've talked about today can be done today. The only question I have for the audience is why aren't you? What are the constraints? And we're going to uncover those moving forward, right? That's what we want to do. I'm going to ask you guys if there's any other thing you want to do before I bring in the audience, before I attempt to bring in the WebEx audience or the Zoom audience. I have no idea if that's going to break or what'll happen. It'll be an experiment.
One other thing that I thought might be really helpful for this audience is I'm going to share my screen one more time. Just a little side note here.
1 second. I'll let you know when it's able to get popped up there. There we go.
So there's some new innovations right now. Of course, like these were all generated earlier through Midjourney. But there are some new tools that will allow you to do like motion. So if you have processes in facility management or even corporate real estate, like what we're doing right now is a lot of workflows where you can stack different processes together. And now with the ability for motion and almost turning some of these to video, you can make really easy to explain processes and embed that into your workflows or make that part of your workflows. And I think as we see the future coming of what's possible in AI and how do we apply that to our specific industries, I think there's going to be a lot of gains on first of all, save money, save time, and find new opportunities, like seeing things that us as humans can't see initially. And I think that's where those who adopt it early and those who are able to kind of look to 2024 as like, what's my AI strategy? And we see a lot of people talking about that. I know, especially in this industry with like James, Chris, and Caleb, like definitely in good hands to help you get that strategy in place.
You know, I would like to add a last item going back to digital twins. You know, I think the bridge between design and facility management, it's not a one-way street. You know, I think I've seen the challenges getting from a design model to a facility model that can then be used, like what Chris is working on. I think it's awesome. But then once you get into an actual building, you know, like you were saying, James, maybe these older buildings, they haven't been great at maintaining the as-built. It's the same idea with the digital twin. It only works with the information you've given it. And so even if you get a perfect digital twin of your brand new building or your renovated building or whatever, you know, it's time now on the facility management side to learn the tools so that every time you're making a change, not only are you taking a picture and saying, what is this? How do I fix it? But now once you've fixed it, once you've changed it, you take a picture and you're like, all right, now go the other direction. Put this back in my digital twin, put this back in my model, put this back in my tracking so that everything I have for the next guy is up to date. Because that's just as much a challenge as getting the original design.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that, Caleb. We always say that, you know, a digital twin is a living document. It needs to be maintained. It needs to be updated. It needs to be current with what your situation is. Don't just take something and let it be static, because it won't do you any good. You've got to continually update it. You've got to continually work with it.
And can I add something too? Like that mindset of continually adding in the near future is in essence training models to help you do things better in the future. So always look at that feedback loop and continually bring it full circle, and you'll thank yourself later as these models generate better and better data for you.
Yeah, data accuracy all the way around.
100%. More to come, right? There's a lot more that I want to dive deep into, Chris, and the process that he follows. Caleb, I want to continue the conversation on how to ensure the design process accommodates building operations and maintenance. I mean, truly, right? Cutting through all the static, right? What's happening, what needs to happen. Matt, the insights that you're working on, I think, are critical for the industry as well. Let me attempt to bring the Zoom guys in. So I'm going to apologize up front. We're doing something that, to my knowledge, has never been done before. So fingers crossed. I am going to stop sharing on the Zoom session just for 1 second. Allow me to then stop sharing. And then I am going to reshare. Yes, I'm talking out loud. I know I'm talking out loud. Just 1 second.